Welcome to Progressive Retail. I'm your host, Corey Mosley. Thank you for tuning in. We've got another great show planned for you today, including my interview with Dealer Socket's Matt Redden, plus my regular segments, Don't Be Ridiculous, Here's a Thought, and The Way I See It. OCRM, Customer Relationship Management. It was a term first coined in the 90s with the literal meaning simply being managing the relationship with your customer today. Today, it's used really to define the systems and software that help you manage this relationship. According to Wikipedia, the generally accepted definition of CRM is to enable organizations to better serve their customers through the introduction of reliable processes and procedures for interacting with those customers. One of the leaders in this space for years has been Dealer Socket. So I've invited Matt Redden, a longtime friend and the Chief Marketing and Sales Officer of Dealer Socket, to discuss where CRM is headed next. Matt, thank you for joining the show today.
You bet, anytime.
So, listen, there's thousands of dealers. I mean, unless you're living under a rock, everybody should know who Dealer Socket is by now. So with thousands of dealers utilizing your CRM across the country, what are some of the best dealers doing in the marketplace to really maximize the use of the system?
They're really changing their focus from kind of the concept of normal CRM to really focusing on the relationship, the retention, and the repeat customer. So instead of just enabling process and having the system do your follow-up, it's actually giving you an opportunity to be progressive as a salesperson or progressive as a sales manager and keying in things that really change the relationship and change the way that the dealership is viewed in our customer base.
I like how you weave the progressive in there since this is progressive retail.
It is.
That was good. Now, I once had a guy pitch, and I've been in pitches. I've seen, your guys, I've seen other guys pitch CRM with dealers that we advise. And, I had a guy stand up and basically say, hey, all CRMs, we basically do the same thing. We are the same thing. Is that true?
Well, that same guy probably still uses a BlackBerry, right? And so I think at the end of the day, there is some CRMs out there that have not progressed with the way the dealership does business today. In that case, it is probably the same to them. But if you're really looking at a CRM that progresses and continues to move the needle, it has to be innovative. So here at Dealer Socket, we keep with the agile format, meaning every 3 weeks we enhance the product. And that entire feedback loop is from the dealers. So the product that we sell today is an evolution of the dealers that use our product.
So a lot of times I find the CRM, and I've had this situation where someone has said to me, well, Corey, we hate this CRM that we're using, but we've signed up, we're in it, I don't want to go through the training again, I don't want to go through the pain. And that makes me think about DMSs. There's a lot of times where people hated their DMSs or they were too expensive and they couldn't get out of their contracts and they didn't want to go through the pain of changing. I see the same thing with CRM. How does a dealer make that decision or know if the CRM is working for them properly or not? Because they have a lot of responsibility for making it work, right?
Yep. The hard thing about CRM is it touches all the departments of the dealership if it's a true CRM. So whether it's service / fixed ops, it's the sales side, it's your customer satisfaction, and even potentially admin and marketing. So when you think about it, it touches the entire dealership, that's the same thing that the DMS does. So when you change a CRM, everyone has to get on board versus just a department. And so it's a difficult thing to do. And so what happens, as you know, people get stuck in a rut. And if you're still doing the same process that you used in 1980, 1987 to sell a car, then you probably should stick with CDK and Reynolds as a contact management system that is coded CRM. But if you're really looking to be better and actually follow your customers and enhance the opportunity to not only keep them as a customer, but have them resell and purchase and get into the fixed ops, then you need to look at someone who's innovating and keeping up with the times that we're facing here in the dealership space.
So thinking about that, one of the challenges we've had for the past 12 years in business, and this is going back to our early workshops in 2005, was this idea that, we're trying to go here, and you're trying to talk to people that maybe aren't convinced that they need to go or don't want to go. So you talked about these changes, these 3-week rollouts, this dealer feedback, this feedback from the market. Where are the challenges in terms of adoption? What do you see right now are some of the things that should be a no? I stopped using the term no-brainer a long time ago, but what are the things that you say, wow, we've got this, so we've got this out in the marketplace, and we see this accelerating sales, the data is showing that, but people just aren't getting it as fast as possible. What technology areas do you see that they should be on top of more that they're not right now?
So it starts with the whole idea is everyone thinks that they should look and feel like Apple. And everyone talks about
right.
the Apple concept.
And I've talked about that on this show too.
And unfortunately, no one's adopting it. They talk about it, and it's much like the same processes that they used in 1990 and 2000. They're still doing it at the dealership. And so we see the same problem with our technology is people want the Apple experience, but they're not willing to adapt it and change their process to it. So a good example is just mobile application, and now having your salespeople do their job via mobile, or presenting the desking operation through a tablet, versus a paper, or potentially the F&I product menu selling, or a check-in of a vehicle when you come into the service drive being done on an iPad, which is exactly what's happening in the Apple Store, but we can't get dealers to do it. And so although we've advanced and released the technology, there's a kind of this threshold of we're interested, but we're not willing to change mentality.
Well, what do you say to the guy that says, I'm selling a lot of cars? We've made it just fine without all of that stuff for these past 30 years. And we're selling cars today, so I don't see how going from paper is going to change it by doing the iPad.
In a way, you can agree with that because they are successful. But as you know, the consumers are becoming more and more knowledgeable. And pretty soon, the dealers are going to have to adopt to allowing people to buy a car the way they want to buy a car. Because we all know that number one frustration is the time that it takes to process and buy a vehicle in a given store. And some dealers that are more progressive, they're at the 90 minutes, but most are still in that 3 to 4 hour process. And sooner or later, that's going to prevent dealers from being successful. And so if you are on the slow end of that change, your numbers today that maybe in the 300 or 400s are going to start to drop because consumers are going to be able to find a way they want to buy their car, the same way they buy their shoes, and the same way they buy their clothes, and the same way they buy all the other things in life. And what's fascinating to me is I can buy a home, and I can do it all digitally, but I can't buy a car digitally, and I can't go online, buy a car, and have it all done electronically.
Now, there are people that are claiming that you can do that now.
You can in most states,
right.
But there's still a limit because the people that are doing that don't have any access to inventory because the inventory is owned by the dealer. And so until we can bring out what we're calling digital retailing here at Dealer Socket, until we can launch that, which we're hoping to do at NADA next year, then you are kind of stymied in the fact that, yeah, I can be a BP or a Carve Room, but I am trapped because I don't have inventory to get to you.
Right.
And so if we can allow a dealer now to, at their own speed, expose to their consumers what they want to online and allow that buying process either to go all the way from cradle to grave or potentially right at some point it comes back into the store, we want to be able to offer something that gives them as much as they want or as little as they want. But sooner or later, they're going to have to keep progressing. So we're thinking that if we get a digital retailing platform that allows them to either go all in or bits and pieces at a time, we believe we can manage that.
What's the number one thing, and I know there's many, but regardless of CRM, what's the number one thing? Guy says, hey, I always talk about this disconnect. I believe there's a disconnect between senior management and decision makers and what's happening in the real world of frontline. If there was one thing you were going to say to a decision maker in a store, a dealer, a GM, that they should look at immediately to determine if they've got a problem in the utilization of their CRM, what would you say?
It is a disconnection between the strategy and vision of the dealership. So each year, I'm assuming every single dealership, even the ones that we work with, have some kind of business plan for 2017. And they're probably working on it right now. But when they finish that business plan, they never take the time to see if their technology stack or their CRM matches what they're trying to accomplish.
Right, or their staff.
Or their staff.
Right.
And so that's the biggest thing is whenever you come up with this plan, whether it's self-driven or manufacturer-driven, you now need to decide on whether your CRM can enable that strategy. And if it can enable it, can you train your staff to match that? And that's the problem that we generally face is that it sounds good on paper, but then they get frustrated because they can't make it happen in the technology.
Excellent. Now, you're talking about, you've got your own user summit coming up, right?
That's right.
Disruption is imminent. And there's always some cool theme. I've done your user summit for a number of years. My invite has not been.
We expect you to be there.
My invite's not in the mailbox yet. I know I don't take pictures in watercolors, and I forget who you got coming, but you got a pretty cool lineup. Disruption is imminent. Give us a preview of what that means.
So for us, on October 3rd, 2016, we are what we're calling, disrupting the marketplace. And really, it's a change in our platform and a change in our vision. So to give you a snapshot of where we think things are headed, at the end of the day, today I have technology that may be running in my service drive, maybe running in my inventory side, and maybe in my CRM, and I have my DMS. And in today's world, right, I can go as a sales rep and I can scan the VIN of a car into my CRM and I can start that process. Long term though, I should be able to scan the vehicle either on the service drive or a trade-in potential on the sell side, and it should automatically, right, be taking that information and disseminating it to all the appropriate people in a dealership. But right now, those products are segmented. So right now, I scan it in, it doesn't automatically go to vAuto, it doesn't automatically go to Inventory Plus. And so we see it in the short term being able to do one thing and now take that information and give it to the used car manager through Inventory Plus, sending it over to the service drive, or it comes to the service drive and it goes to equity mining and it goes to the CRM. And so when you think about where CRM's headed or customer experience management is headed, it's now managing all the touch points across the dealership regardless of the technology stack and empowering the individuals to use that information to do their job. And so we are going to launch that, and for Dealer Socket we call it Blackbird. Blackbird is technically the rebuilding of Dealer Socket based product. Okay. Right, we've been in the market since 2002 with our first dealership, Larry Miller Lexus, in Salt Lake City.
It was Fire Socket back then.
It was Fire Socket back then.
I'm aging myself, but yes, I remember that.
It was, and it was confusing, so we changed that. And they're still obviously a happy Raving fan customer,
right.
But at the end of the day, we are needing to rebuild that because we built it on technology that was available back in 2000, 2001, 2002. And so when we build it and launch this new platform, not only will it advance where CRM's headed, it'll advance the ability to integrate with other platforms, integrate with other third-party companies in a much more rapid pace, because we know that there's a lot of other vendors out there that have great products that potentially we're not going to invent or bring out through Dealer Socket, but dealers are going to need to enable their job to be able to get to the consumers in a faster, more productive way. And so this new platform starts in the CRM, then it moves over into our independent DMS, and then all of our other products will come out with this new look and feel and this new kind of back-end connection throughout 2017 into 2018.
So the long-winded answer was you're rebuilding and doing a rebuild.
You could call it Dealer Socket 2.0.
Okay.
But
Blackbird.
Yes, Blackbird.
Yeah, I know. Listen,
the wave of the future.
Yeah, if you didn't put the hoopla behind it, a lot of marketing people will be out of work, right?
Amen. Amen.
So finally,
CMS. So the M is for marketing.
That's right. That's right.
Got to do that.
So looking in your crystal ball, I always ask my experts that come on the show to do this. Looking in your crystal ball, where's CRM in the next 5 years?
A little bit what I touched on already. It's now taking all the touch points across a dealership, and whether that's in service, whether that's through customer satisfaction, whether that's through sales, and trying to ensure that all that information is in everyone's hands at all times. We want to have a platform that allows that information to be disseminated appropriately to ensure that we're connecting with the customer when they want to hear from us. And there's not this disjointed nature of, I just bought a car from you, but I'm getting information on some new financing opportunity. Or, I just came in for service, but I just got a coupon for $25 off my service. And so if we can manage that entire customer experience, you as a consumer won't feel that disjointed nature. What ends up happening makes it so you don't want to be a repeat customer. You get frustrated. I don't want to do business with someone who doesn't know me and my needs.
So ultimately, everything's going to become more intuitive in terms of the process. Some of the things that we see outside, I'm in other verticals besides automotive. So when I go out into those verticals and we start looking at segmentation, market automation, some of these other things that really haven't made their way yet fully into our business. And to the auto industry, that kind of fits the mold on what you're saying.
For sure.
Getting more intuitive.
For sure.
Excellent.
We definitely got to get there.
Matt, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining the show.
Thanks, Corey. Take care.
Now it's time for
Don't Be Ridiculous,
where the dealer remains anonymous, but the story must be shared. So here's the scenario. A $65,000 luxury car is being set for delivery when a large scratch is discovered on the driver's door. When brought to the attention of the GSM, the salesperson is instructed to take a black magic marker, and use it to fill in the scratch. The customer recognizes not only the scratch, but the intent by the dealer to cover it up. He refuses delivery and buys his car elsewhere. To that, I simply have to say,
Don't be ridiculous.
If you have a Don't Be Ridiculous story to share, please email us at cbtshow@CoreyMosley.com. If we use your story on the show, we will send you your very own Don't Be Ridiculous t-shirt. Now, here's a thought. What an unnecessary scenario. The end result was the car needed to get the proper repair done to it anyway before resale. So why not have taken care of it up front? The CBT conference next year is coming, and it's going to feature Gary Vaynerchuk as a keynote speaker. Gary is frequently quoted as saying, "Doing the right thing is always the right thing." Finally, we can come up with all the acronyms we want for things, CRM, BDC, CRC, CDC, and we can buy all the technology we want. But if the mindset starting from the top isn't correct, none of it will matter. The challenges we face in the dealership on a daily basis are those that deal with being educated and then executing on that education. This idea of going to one manager for a shortcut because he can't use the system and then the both of you would like the good old days to come back, well, it isn't, and they won't. There are people out there chomping at the bit to eat your lunch, and they may not have brought the battle to your doorstep yet, but sooner or later, they are coming. And that simply is the way I see it. Log on to mosleyautomotive.com to learn more about how we're helping dealers become more progressive and profitable, and find out when my new workshop, Convert, Show, Close, Accelerating Your Internet Sales, will be in a city near you. This has been Progressive Retail, exclusively on the CBT Automotive News Network. I'm Corey Mosley, and I will see you next week.